choke me up.
I choke people up once in a while.
Yes, you do. Well, you guys on Facebook, we have an echo, Tommy. Is there any way to turn some volume down, or do you have two devices on?
No.
Oh, good. I hear
Nothing.
a little bit. I hear a little echo.
No, I got nothing here.
We'll just ignore it then.
Or see, that's a good thing about getting deaf like I am. You don't hear anything. and I'm getting a little blind too. So
Are you really?
Yeah, I got. Well, I got a little onset of glaucoma.
Oh my goodness.
Which is weird because I smoke so much weed. Maybe it did the opposite. Instead of curing it, maybe it made it worse. I don't know. No, I had some kind of degenerate eye thing or something. But wow. It's okay. I'm managing. You know what I'm doing at my age? I'm sort of recording the different feelings and thoughts. Because being a comedian, our natural tendency is to find the humor in everything, no matter how dark or how whatever it is. There's humor.
Yes.
It can get you in trouble if you go public with it too fast. But yeah, I've and in doing so, I've kind of almost conquered the aging thing, because you don't have to age. It's totally up to you, and your karma, I imagine. If a lot of, like, I meet people now and they look decrepit, and so I'll say, how old are you? And they say, well, I'm 62, or I'm 71, or I'm 75, and I look at them and I don't want to tell them how old I am, because I don't want to make them feel any worse than what they are. So I sort of like, oh yeah, I understand. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, it can get you. It can sneak up on you.
You know what? Every comedian goes on stage, and they go, I've been getting older, I'm aging. And I'm like, aren't we all? I mean, yes. It's relatable, but it's so overdone.
Well, it comes as a shock to a lot of people, but if you accept it, I guess it's my spiritual training, which, by the way, I have to be very careful with it. You can't share. Well, you can't share aging with anybody. That's a personal thing. Yeah. And then there's revelations. I call it spoiler alert. because I started finding out what how to cope with age, how to cope with the changing thing, like the sex drive literally disappears if you let it. I went through a stage in my life where I was trying to hang on, just give me one more time in that, and then it just dawned on me, give it up. And enjoy the freedom, because you can get trapped in those emotions or those feelings, like you can develop habits that you think will never change, but the truth is everything changes, and it changes for a reason. There's a reason we're turning. This whole Earth is turning as we travel through space. There's a very, very strong reason, because what's happening is that we're constantly moving, and when you're constantly moving, you have to be constantly changing, because you're never in the same spot. Like
Beautiful.
just the seconds that we were talking, we've gone thousands of miles in space, and we've also started the axis turning. It doesn't stop, it just keeps turning. And what I found, if you can, just me, I won't put this on anybody else, but if you can feel the earth move, and look at the skies, and see the clouds, everything's moving. It seems static, but everything is moving. I was on the desert a little while ago, shooting the last part of our scene, and people, especially my wife, she thinks when I'm bent over, it's because of age. But it's two things: it's gravity, and it's you got to watch where you step when you're older.
Yes.
You got to look down at the ground, because a little rock, or a little incline, or something different can put your ass on the ground. And young people, they don't, because their instincts are so good. They actually got their muscles anticipate, you see. But when you get older, especially if you sit a lot, and then all of a sudden you're standing up and you're walking, you really gotta take care. Hold on, I gotta shut up the yeah, I gotta shut up my gardener. He had the blower going on.
Could you talk to us a little bit about all the instruments on your wall?
They're my guitar collection. It's my third guitar collection. I've had two ripped off, stolen, and which I don't mind. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm not attached to anything. There's from a group called Pantera. They're a rock group in the 90s, I guess. It was a gift. There's a ukulele that Cheech bought me. He's a big ukulele fan and a collector, and he bought me a beautiful ukulele. There's a standard, or what do you call it, acoustic guitar that I got from my son. I don't know where he got it from. My youngest son, who was a musician. There's a handmade ukulele. Let's see if I can see it. You can see it there, handmade. I saw a guy came to get one signed, and I liked it. And I said, "Oh, where can I get one of these?" And so he gave me one, and I sent him the money. $200, not bad. Gee. There's a muff diver, which is a cigar box made into a ukulele. Oh, wow. There's my son's 5-string bass, which needs a battery to work. There's my Paul Reed Smith guitar, most expensive guitar I've ever bought, $6,000. Wow. And as soon as I bought it, our roadie from years ago, Jimmy Root, we were going somewhere, and he dropped it. Oh. And he put a big dent in the bottom. But see, I don't get mad at that, because the guitar is an axe. It's like your working material, and like a hammer or axe or anything, there's dents. There's going to be dents, and so the dent it's got a story. Yes. And then I got a Fender guitar made by the brother of the Leo Fender, who invented the Fender guitar, and another guitar player friend of mine, because I'm a celebrity, I got one free. Come on down, pick one up. So I got a Fender guitar there. It's just, yeah. And then I got a homemade Japanese guitar. Let's see if I can show you on that. Let's see, right at the bottom there.
Wow.
It's that one there.
That's what I thought. Wow.
It was I carved that one myself. It was a very cheap. It's a cheap, I think, copy of a regular Fender guitar, and because it's cheap and it's okay. I was that the one I changed? Oh yeah. Oh, I not only carved the body, but I put a thick neck on it. Is that it? Yeah. And then I had a tattoo artist decorate it, paint it, and it's got all the humbucker pickups, so it's really a good blues guitar, but it's kind of tough to play because I put a thick neck on it. And the reason I did that is one of the greatest guitar players in the world, no longer with us, Lenny Bro was his name, and he was a kid from Winnipeg, and he started out as a steel guitar player. So he ends up using all his fingers to play. And then he ended up being one of the greatest jazz guitarists in the world ever. And when he used to play in Nashville, Chet Atkins was a well-known guitarist. Lenny would be playing in this loud bar, everybody talking, and Chet Atkins would stand up. And I was there one time. He did it. Stand up and talk. Everybody, shut up. You're listening to the greatest guitar player in the world. Now shut up and enjoy. You're not going to get this chance often. So everybody shut up.
Totally.
Of course, nobody shut up.
Yeah.
It's like yelling at a bunch of kindergarten kids or something. No, they're all drunk guys, and all the less sounded like he sounded like one of the drunks that all of a sudden felt like the urge to stand up and tell everybody to shut up. Oh man, I laughed at it. And then the last guitar, there again, it's I'll get around here and see. Oh yeah, right there, the very last one, hanging there. That was the original guitar that my mother bought when she was pregnant with me. She got it from a Sears catalog, and it had a picture of a hula girl on the front. And it was a very cheap guitar, but it was made back, well, it had to be made in the 20s, the 30s, because I was born in 38. And so it had to be around 1938, 37. And she had already had a baby, my older brother. And so she would take that guitar, and she couldn't play it, but she would strum it, hold it against her tummy and strum it. And when I come out, when I was about 7, 8 years old, it was always in the house. And so I always, and we had it was tuned. And I used to, when I was like 6, 7 years old, I would pick it up and try to play it, and then I had a neighbor show me some chords, early chords, and I got good enough that I started playing guitar, backup guitar with the neighbor, and he was a fiddle player. And so at 8 years old, I used to sit up all night playing house parties, playing a house party, and either at his house or my house, and that's how I got my start in music. Because when you're learning any instrument, when you're a kid, everybody's easy on you. You learn your skills, learn to read, you learn all that stuff. I went right from knowing a few chords to playing with the fiddle player, and so my early learning, or what I learned, was how to keep time and how to sweat through the long hours of playing, dancing, playing for, it was no play a song for for grandpa or something like that. Was not none of that. It was like, okay, we'd start maybe at 10 o'clock, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night and play to 2, 3 in the morning.
Gee.
And that was me sitting there with that guitar and playing it. And then when I got older, and the word went out, that people were looking for guitar players, and I had friends. We played guitar together. We had a little guitar group, and I was always backup. I never sang, and
Really?
and I took that guitar to a thing one time. And I played at a wedding one time, and then this real good guitar player, he said, "Can I try your guitar?" And he took it, and he really made it sound really good, And so that was the guitar that I would put on my back and ride my bike to my first and only guitar teacher. And I was 13. I was 13 years old. That's when I took a few lessons. And you know how much the lessons cost? 50 cents.
Wow, that's crazy.
50 cents a lesson. Not even $1.
Jeez.
And my son now, my youngest son, Jobran, he's got a degree in music, percussion. Like he could play in any symphony orchestra if he wanted to now. And so what he's doing, he's teaching kids in his neighborhood. He lives in Tofino, and he teaches music to the little kids. So it's like a full circle,
Wonderful. Wow. That's really a great legacy for you to leave, that transferred to him onto other children.
Well, all my kids are phenomenal. Everyone. And the reason they're phenomenal is because they come from royalty for sure, and but the love and the encouragement that I had when I was a kid, we pass it on. In fact, my youngest son, the one with the degree, well, he's not making any money, but he married well. He married an engineer, a lady, a wind engineer that designs the big windmills, and so she's got a really nice paycheck coming in every month. And so my son, he tried to do construction and do the man kind of jobs, but he wasn't happy. And so I told him, I said, man, listen, I'll support you, but you got to do something with your music. And so he started teaching, and it wasn't an ultimatum in that; it was an encouragement.
Yes.
I don't believe in treating anybody where you better do this or that'll or bad things will happen. I like the way I tell my kids is find something you love, and if I can, I'll help you. I'll help you. And all my kids, my daughter, she's incredible. Because my wife helps my daughter a lot. So she helped her, like buy some homes and stuff like that. And and that's why I feel about my kids, because I remember, I was poor, and when you're a poor ass musician, I don't care how good you are, you're a musician. and 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 if you're not rich, or you're poor, rich or poor, you very seldom find really good musicians that are wealthy, because the time and energy it takes to become wealthy, it makes you neglect being poor. you know and being poor is probably the best encouragement any musician could have, because you can't just sit at home and play in your room. You got to make a living,
Yes.
and so you got to do and that was what my first fiddle player partner told me to do. He would teach me. He said, keep it simple. If I tried to get fancy with the guitar, he'd look at me, keep it simple, and give the people what they want. And that's two things that were etched in my brain.
Yeah.
And so when I started, the comedy or the band, anything I started, I knew how much work you had to put in performing, not getting ready to perform, but actually performing itself. And that is really the secret of my success. Because
Let's speak about that a little bit.
Sure. The thing, if you're going to be a musician, you definitely need support from your family. And your family can be another musician or a wife, a girlfriend. There's a joke about, what do you call a musician that doesn't have a girlfriend? Homeless. Because to this day, my one daughter, Radon, the actress, she lives with a musician, and she really is the breadwinner. He makes barely enough to support himself, and I think he's divorced. I'm not sure, but he's separated. He's got another family. But the greatest musicians that I've met, they either died penniless or they died with people helping them,
Yes.
because their soul and their whole art is right into the music, and that doesn't, guarantee, unless you're like a Les Paul, you invent a guitar, and then you can live off the royalties or something. But I even met the guy that invented the wah-wah pedal. And the wah-wah pedal is what all Jimi Hendrix made it famous, because it gives that wah-wah, give that sound. Well, I met the guy that invented it. I met him in a pizza parlor where he's playing guitar on one night a week or something. And then I met him again at another club, a restaurant, where he's playing in the background, playing mood music. and there it is. And like I said, the most prolific, incredibly gifted guitarist. He really died. He died penniless in Edmonton, and then
Jimi Hendrix did.
No, not well. Jimi Hendrix died, of a drug overdose. That's another thing too. The heroin. That was a curse. That is, well, it shortens the life of a lot of really good people, be it karma or whatever. It happens. I once played with Hendrix. He came and sat in on our band one time in London, England, and that was quite a thrill. But Hendrix, after we played, we all went over to our hotel room, and we're going to party with Hendrix. Well, we never saw him. He went in the bathroom and never came out. And then when he came out, he just went home. He went in the bathroom, shot up, and then he went home. No party, no, how you doing? What's going on? No visiting, nothing. Junkies. And I, all my heroes, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Wes Montgomery, the guitar player. He was not a junkie, but he was a pothead. And I once had a private concert by Wes Montgomery. I was in Vancouver. It was in the, I guess, 50s. He had just been discovered. He was playing in a little jazz club. Vancouver is a hotbed for heroin, so everybody in the club, the few people that were still there, were all passed out, all nodding, and so Wes and I were the only ones that were awake, and so he came out and we just talked. We chatted for a good hour, Then he had another set to play. And so he said, oh, I better play a set, and so he played his guitar for me. And I think maybe one or two people were awake. So I had a private concert with Wes Montgomery. And right then that taught me a lot about being the best guitar player in the world, you know. And so even though I have talent, on the guitar, but my talent really was backing up other people, and as a comedian, that's what I did. I did that with singers. I did that with backing. I was the guy behind the guy, you know. I was the Keith Richards behind Mick,
You were kind of like the guitar straight man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I made sure that, every once in a while I would talk on the mic and say things like, okay, we're going to take an intermission. We'll be back in a little while. Stuff like that. Or that's it for tonight. This is the last dance. Want to thank everybody for coming out. That was all I would ever say in the mic. And so when I started doing comedy, nobody recognized me. In fact, when we went away to join Motown, and like I said, we met Hendrix. Well, when we went to England, we were all dressed like Motown with their popsicle suits and the short haircut. And when we came back, Jimmy just changed everybody in the band got their own way of dressing and their own style, and the hair grew long. And then I left Vancouver for Detroit, and I was gone for like 2 years. Well, like I went to England and everything. And when I came back, I was a part owner of 2 nightclubs. And so when I came back, they wouldn't even let me in the first nightclub. They didn't recognize me. I had long hair, and they had an anti-hippie policy. Like if you had long hair back then, you were like a homeless or a bum. And so I showed up, and they looked at me. I'm sorry, sir, but we're sold out, or whatever they said. And I looked, and they, oh, that's Tommy. It was funny, and that actually began the split of my first wife, because she my first wife, Maxine, she's totally music, but she could play piano, and she played in the church. She still does, or she used to. And I was a musician with the short hair. And then when I became a comedian, oh my God, that was a straw that broke the marriage back,
Oh.
So I got, but then she freed me to be with my love, Shelby, and I've been with her ever since.
Now you and Shelby are like soulmates.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I said, we're back doing a show now. We recorded a couple of things 2 days ago. And oh man, I'm so glad. I'm so happy to be back with her. Because what happened when Cheech and I got back together, we included Shelby, but it was really, the emphasis and the attention was on Cheech and Chong. And Shelby, to her credit, she learned how to do 40, 50 minutes by herself, and she's a trooper. But when we stopped working because of the pandemic, then she went into her dance craze. She was taking 3 dance classes a week, and Pilates and everything else. And now that we're back, her and I, because Cheech, Cheech hurt his knee. He had 1 knee replacement. Now he's got 2 knee replacements, and so we can't do the act anymore. He fell on stage, and so then he had to get the other knee replaced, and it's over. For Cheech and Chong. I mean, that was who we were when we were like in our 30s. I was in my 30s. Cheech was in his 20s. But now Shelby and I are back. We're back, and we're not doing stand up per se. We're doing like a Regis and Kathy, or that kind of a show,
You have guests on?
Oh, we're going to. We have the first couple we did was just introducing us, but oh yeah, we're going to have guests, and it's going to be short and sweet. We're going to keep it short and sweet, and because that's what's going on now. Every once in a while we'll have a special, but it is short and sweet, and we're taking questions. We had people, text us Shelby questions. She's got quite a following on TikTok.
Yes, she does.
Oh yeah, and so we're leaning in that direction. I love it. I love when people come up to me and say, "Well, I got to tell you, I'm really a big fan of Shelby's."
Yes.
And I don't get hurt. I say, so am I. I'm a big fan of her.
If only she had a good body.
Oh my God. And when people say to me, "You've been together how long?" No, what's the secret of a long relationship? And I look at her body and I go, well. And someone asked, do I get jealous? And Shelby answered that, yes, he does. Oh, yes, I do. In fact, we talked about it in the show because she's a great artist, and one time, like all great artists, there's a lot of work they love and a lot of work they don't love. And so my job really is dealing with garbage, So I go to the garbage, the recycle bin, and I look in there. There's all her 6 paintings, little paintings in the garbage. I pulled them out of there. What is going on here? No. And it was like they said, well, they're just practice things. They're paintings.
They'll
It'd be
sell.
like if Picasso or Rembrandt said, "Oh, these are practice. I'll just throw them away." So I got them hanging in my office there. And Shelby said,
I want to see one.
Oh, let me see. They're all.
Is it landscape?
Yeah. They're
gorgeous.
They're landscapes.
Wow.
Let's see.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I mean, they're quick studies. They're done in a few, in an hour or whatever. But you don't throw that shit away.
No.
I'll show you one of mine. Mine are what do you call it? Well, they're abstract. Like I'm a big Ed Moses fan. He's abstract, but this is mine.
Oh wow! I love that.
Yeah. It's got a good vibe. Let me show you my son, who doesn't do art anymore. He's in the businessman phase. Now I don't know why he doesn't do art, because this one here. I don't know. Can you see it?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Dizzy Gillespie?
Yeah, that. It's no, the alto player, Charlie Parker.
Oh,
that's Charlie Parker.
Wow.
This is this is another one of my abstracts. It started out to be one, and it turned out to be another.
I love that.
And this is Shelby's portrait of me.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. See, the amazing thing about her paintings is that she captures a face. Like if you notice there's some art where the face is hidden by hats or hair, or they'll have just the back of the head, and she's conquered that. she can get expression. You know, that's the toughest thing to do, to capture expression, because that captures age or youth or whatever, or it captures emotion. And oh my God, her ability to do that. One time we're having dinner with Mo Austin, his son. Mo Austin was the guy that owned Warner Brothers Records forever. He owns it's like the greatest house uh, in my neighborhood on the mountain, and it's a big estate, and we're up there, and we're having dinner with the architect that built the whole place. And Shelby had some of her paintings on her phone. And the guy, he said, yeah, he's an artist, and he's, well, show me, yeah, let me see your paintings. So Shelby showed him one that she finished, and he kept staring at it, and it got kind of uncomfortable because he's staring at it for a long time, and Shelby kind of reached for the phone. The guy go, no, just a minute, and just staring at it. And then he said to her, he says, you have no idea what you've done, do you? And Shelby was it's your baby. You're showing your babies. And she goes, well, yeah. She didn't know how to answer that. What he was saying, he says, he's an architect. He built all this. He built all this stuff. He says, I can't do that. I can't capture that thing. It's a talent, like a singer or like anybody or gymnast or whatever, that it's her. It's in her. And now, and she doesn't have that. She didn't have enough ego. I guess it was when you're raised. You're not the oldest or the youngest. You're in the middle, you know, and you're sort of like teased a lot. And that was one thing about a big family in Canada. You couldn't get anything by anybody. You were always like, you know, ridiculed or whatever, you know. And that's why she never developed a singing voice, because she was embarrassed to sing, you know. But when I found out, see, I discovered her when she was young, 15, 16 years old. And the thing about her was that wisdom that was just there. Here I am dealing with a nightclub, and she's just a friend. In fact, I found out later that she would visit me because I would give her money to take a cab home. But instead of taking a cab, she would take the bus and put the money and use the money to help her, with the little buy cigarettes or whatever, and and we were just we're friends. We're still the best friends. And it wasn't until years, until she was, I guess, almost 20, 19 when we took acid together, and then we really fell in love, physically, and then we ended up with a daughter. But but she had this wisdom that was beyond her age, because when she was a kid, she used to help her mom. Not so much her dad was a drunk, but her mom was a seamstress, and that, and very, very wise. And she would help her mom with different things, help her sisters, help everybody. She's got this wisdom, and it's crazy. And then when I got her on stage, it started coming out. Wow, you know. But her ability to keep that little body, it's so amusing for me, because we got friends, and all her friends are like 10, 20 years younger than her, you
Wow.
know, and they all got like weight problems. and all that man problems, all that things that come with it. And yet she just motors on like she's a teenager. When she was pregnant with our first daughter, she never bought any maternity clothes.
Whoa.
She let the back of her dress out. And then after she had the baby, the same dress, she just buttoned it up.
Oh my gosh. So could you tell,
Amazing.
would
Huh?
your marriage has lasted in a really tough entertainment business, and
Yep.
there's a lot of comedians who struggle with keeping a relationship going and their art. So do you have any words of encouragement for other comedians how to make it work?
Well, it's not something that you can teach. You can't teach anybody how to pick the right person. Uh, no, it's a talent that so many people. Well, I was watching the Quincy Jones documentary, and Quincy Jones, uh, what a talented, beautiful person, raised in the ghetto, and just self-made guy, and learned his music, and went to Paris and studied with the best, and became the most prolific, famous music director in history. He's connected with every superstar except Elvis, Frank Sinatra, Michael Jackson, uh, everybody that was anybody. They had Quincy Jones writing and think. Well, Quincy, because he was so handsome, he had his pick, and so right away he went for the European models and that. And his first wife was incredibly gorgeous, and they had kids, but he couldn't maintain a marriage because he was so consumed by his art. And everybody, when you're that consumed, that you don't have time for yourself, let alone anybody else. And so the wife and kids were shoved off to the side. Well, what I did, and what we've always done, I've always included the family. See, there's a Chinese thing about when the dad works, the family works, you know, and that's what I did with the nightclubs. You know, as soon as I got the nightclubs, my brother took over as a manager. My mom, who never really had a job in her life because she had only one lung, and she had one lung taken out, and so she never really had a job per se. And yet she is at the coat check. And because she was so lovely, and my sister too, my mom in the coat check, they were doing the coat, in Canada, you got to check your coat, and they made a nice, and they love working, especially it's your own club. And then my dad was, he was a bartender, he was the doorman, he was wherever we needed him. But more than anything, he was like the greeter. My dad would sit and drink and have a beer or something with all the people, and they got their own fans. I always had the family, and it wasn't me. I was never the boss. I was always the guy that was on stage doing it. And so when Shelby came into my life, at first I didn't include her because we were playing in a strip club. And so when we had the strip club going, she came with me, and she started working well, my brother put her first as a cigarette girl. And that lasted one night. And, and then she evolved to waitress. And as a waitress, she started making more tips than anybody because she made these sexy little dresses, and it looked like there's nothing on under nothing, no undergarments, and so everybody and then she would not only waitress, but she would sell the like she a cook in a nightclub, usually they're like the third choice, they're drunks or they got some problem, because the last thing you want to do in a nightclub is order the food. you know well we had a good we had a good cook. And so then Shelby took it on herself. We'd start opening the club earlier, and then she had got the kitchen going, and she would hustle these steaks or whatever it was, the cook would get pissed off at her and say, "Oh, you got so many," the Chinese guy, "Oh, you got so many steak all the time, steak." Yeah. Not matter, because she would hustle the steak, she would hustle the food. Oh man. And then she told me how to run the club. You better do that. And not in a, it was like quiet suggestions, the way she is. It wasn't, "Oh, I got to do this." And I realized the paintings that she threw out, she doesn't have an ego.
I love
She's
that.
There's something, and when people get pissed off at her, and they get pissed off at her friends, for no reason other than that she just well, one girlfriend said it perfectly. She told Shelby, "Don't wear those short dresses." She says, "Those dresses are too short."
It sounds like jealousy.
Oh, and because she's so sweet, how do you what do you say to her? What do you say? I watch. I sit through it all, and then she goes through some. Oh, well, so and so mean, and I don't know why she's, why they're mean. She always can't figure out why people are mean to her, especially her girlfriends. I seen there's one, like, I get all these stories, and there's one story. This one lady, she's super rich, and she was married to a very wealthy guy, and he died, and so she inherited everything. I literally probably a couple of $100 million, you know, and maybe more. I mean, she sold her one house for 50 million, and then she bought three other houses, just for her own, so she wouldn't have to pay tax, I guess. So she's got one in Mendocino, and she's got a house in Florida, and another house in Aspen. They're all over the place.
Jeez.
Well, she she was, and we became friends. I knew her husband really well, and so she would ask us. Well, first of all, when she met Shelby, she didn't. She liked Shelby, but she hated her at the same time, because she's a woman. She's not that old, She's, I guess, in her 60s now. Weight problem, hair problem, all that shit, And the weight problem is because she drinks. She's a drinker. But now she looks at Shelby. She goes, I want the number of your trainer." And Shelby, "Well, I really don't have a trainer." But I said, "Well, I have a trainer. I train." And she said, "Oh, good. Well, have him come by." And so I at the time I had a trainer, and so I sent the trainer by, and his name is Tanner. He's a big old muscle head, and so he was trying to train the girl, and she would show up with a cigarette and a glass of bourbon. And set the bourbon down and put the cigarette down. "Okay, what do we got to do here?"
Oh,
And,
geez.
and he finally says, "No, I can't do this. I can't do this." And so she just, the same girl, Shelby has this hairdresser, and the hairdresser, he's so good that he fires people. Like, if you don't do what he says, or be argue with him or whatever, he doesn't need the hassle. You don't like what I did, then fuck off. And so she's at the hairdresser, and she comes in, and he just finished doing her hair, and she comes back. She says, "I went streaks. I went streaks in the hair." And the hairdresser says, "You're fired." No, he told her, he says, "They're old fashioned. We don't do streaks. Look at." He didn't try to. He learned. You don't try to talk them into something. He just fires them. I don't have time, and I understand that. Totally. Can you imagine? I mean, if you're not married to someone and you don't have to put up with their bullshit, and they're paying you, and you don't need the money. Oh, you just get out of there. But everybody just adores Shelby, because she's because she's been a worker all her life. And when she gets into a situation, she sees what has to be done, and then she really appreciates people that are doing, trying to do their job and that, and that's why when I met her, I mean, she, like big decisions, like I had one singer and he was incredible, but he left. He stole some equipment when he left, or he tried to, but then he wanted to come back a month later, and it was Shelby that saved his job, because I wasn't going to have him back. And Shelby says, "Oh no, hire him back." I said, "Yeah, but she goes, he can sing." You want the singer.
Wow.
Forget all that other bullshit. And so I hired him back, and next thing you know, we get discovered by Motown, and started my career. So no, her instincts are so spot on. And now, raising kids too, and now we got grandkids, and it's so beautiful, because again, she's got this ability to just people just want to be around her. She's got that. It's like a Mary Poppins kind of thing. you know
She's got
she's
the X factor.
Yeah, 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 exactly. That's what it is. You can't have it.
Yeah.
And I know that there are that people close, with the kids, and that they get a little jealous because of the attraction that she has. And same as guys, girls with their husbands, and that, they're because when you're that pure, it's not flirting. It's and that's what attracted me to her, and her to me, was that she told me, I don't think she'll admit it anymore, but she told me she loved coming to the club because I would become so happy when I saw her.
Oh,
And she picked up that vibe, that soon as I saw her, my whole thing was changed. I would just, I would change, because that's the power, that's what she has when she walks in a room. And when all the song, like, in our podcast, I sing songs about how much I love her. and, and the producers and that, they love that, but she gets embarrassed. "Oh, shut up. I don't want to hear
oh.
that. Oh, get up. Oh, God. We have to go through that again."
Haha.
she she doesn't know how to deal with compliments. Although she knows, she can she sees she knows what she sees. Like herself, and she's got more people, and she's got doctors. We're at a party one time, and there's a bunch of plastic surgeons there. Next thing you know, they're all gathered around Shelby. And she knows what to ask and what to say, and they're talking, and oh man, oh, she's such a such a wonder. And that's what and people ask me about, especially when I go spiritual, they say, you know, one time they said, what makes, you say there's a God. What makes you say that God exists? And I say, have you seen my wife? I said, not only there is a God, but he really likes me.
She is gorgeous. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah. From the inside out,
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the name of your podcast, Tommy?
Chong and the Family Stoned.
I love that.
That's what I called my band. That I had a band with my kids, my boys, and that's what got my youngest boy into playing drums. We played a few gigs, but they're musicians. They're more like my oldest son. There's more for him to do. He ended up he owns a surf camp, and he's like his mom a lot. Really good businessman, and so he's now my manager.
Is
And
that
he was
John Paul?
no, the John Paul is just a friend.
Okay.
No, and John Paul is not my manager. He likes to say he is, but he's not. He's he's my personal advisor, and he will be if we get other things going. No, John Paul is really responsible for a lot of our business that we have now, going, because he was a big exec at Wells Fargo. He was up there, and then he retired. and John Paul's got problems with like he was in the Vietnam War, and he took a bullet in the chest, uh, and then he got TB and something else, and so they had to give him this medicine to stop the thing, but the medicine took out his hearing, and he's got hearing loss, but he's got hearing aids, so he can hear. But I got hearing aids too now. Sometimes you can't understand, you can't understand the words. It's an age too, but no, JP was a big exec at the banks, and used to lend money to all the dot-commers when they started out and all that stuff, uh, and he's been retired for a while. And then we JP and I become friends, and then he was helping my brother, my brother. He was helping Paris with his surf camp. Paris was having a lot of trouble, and JP showed him how you run a camp, with inventory and stuff and that. And so he got Paris's surf camp going. And then when the weed started getting legal and that, he started helping us with the weed, and now he helps me with the podcasts and stuff like that, But now we're going public with the weed, so we moved up up the ladder with the management and that, And so JP, I've taken him off that because of his hearing and that, he's not that effective on that level. But what JP and I are doing now, we're putting a movie company together.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's going to change the world, because we're not going to have movies the way there'll be some of it around, where you go to the movie theater, but it's really a thing of the past now, yeah. And it's now movies will be more like television shows, where they go on for season after season, it's just not one and done anymore, that still will be somewhat, but what I see, and then I also see the power of the phone now, well, like us, we're talking now,
Yeah.
we can be anywhere in the world and we can do this, long as there's a cell. And so that is, we're living in the future now, and we have to really adjust to it. And so my other daughter, Robbie, with my first marriage, and her guy, they've been working on a documentary, a Cheech and Chong documentary, for almost 5 years now. And it will be like a serial kind of reoccurring thing, season 1, season 2, season 3, that kind of thing. That's what I see with the movie that's shot, and then what I see too is that like Saturday Night Live has been going on for 30 years now.
Yes.
Yeah. And that I mean, people were born, lived, and died during that time.
Yes.
And that is really what we're going to be seeing entertainment like now, because right now you can pull up any movie you want to see. Like last night, we binged on Sex in the City, and so rather than waiting for the next week for the show to come on, just wait, and then the next episode comes on, and then plays, and then another episode comes on, and that's the way it's going to be. Now the good thing and the great thing about it is that you can travel through space. You can go back in time, you can go ahead in time, you can stay current, and like this war in the Ukraine, for instance, there's going to be so much entertainment and information coming out of the Ukraine, because what we're really watching, we're watching the old way get torn down. Because when you see those buildings, apartment buildings and everything else exploding, what you're really seeing is the old way being torn down. Because a lot of those apartments and that were built during the communist era, and it is amazing. The ones that are still standing are the churches, and that they will be rebuilt. And the churches, if you look, I'm a great student of history. If you see some of the churches, the churches started out as gathering places, and then they ended up being fortresses, because there was people, we're in a very violent physical world. And so when you come up with a belief, there's always people that are opposite that belief. But when you gather together, you create a combine, which is very, very, a tribe, so to speak, where where you have your security, your protection, your men taking care of it. And down through history, like the Jewish temples have been built, destroyed, rebuilt, destroyed, rebuilt, and that's the human nature. But so what we're coming into an era where now the reason we're having wars now is because of oil. See, oil is not only the lifeblood, or was the lifeblood of the nation, of the world, but was also controlled. And once you can control any kind of stream, then you can control the money. And then with the money, you can buy your weapons to help you control it even more, and so on. But what's happening is, oh, 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 come on. Okay.
Yay.
Okay, I got it. No, what's happening now is that they're finding out there is a universal religion, And it's not so much it's not anymore like a belief. Like you can see the reason. There's a saying in the Bible, what God has formed together, let no man put asunder. Okay. Well, the truth is what anything God makes or put together, no man can tear asunder. It's impossible because only the man-made God are vulnerable.
Wow.
But in reality, anything made by God is, and he made everything that was good. See, anything that was not made by God was not made. In other words, evil is just a mistake. It's a mistake that gets perpetrated for various reasons. Usually, it's greed. It could be fear, but greed is a form of fear. So all evil is a form of fear, and
Wow.
fear really is ignorance.
Wow.
See, and so when you find something that's real, and God is real, because when the Lord's Prayer tells it all. Our Father, in other words, our Father of all of us. And what is the Father? Father, it's the sperm that impregnates the mother that creates the child. But it's the Father that it's a sperm from the Father. And so our Father who art in heaven, he's not on earth. He's in heaven. Earth is just one of his zillions creations. Because if God made the heavens, and the heavens are they're the more they look, the more they find, more eternity they find. You keep looking, and there's no end to the heavens. There's no end, and yet God is in heaven. God is heaven. Okay, now in the spiritual world, there is no want, no need, no desire. It's only love. And guess what? In the physics, for every action, there's a reaction. Okay? So there's the opposite. So you can't have one without the other. It's impossible. You can't have up without down. Okay? If there was only up, it would not exist. You need the down. You need the opposites.
Wow.
And so you can't have good without bad.
Wow.
It does not exist. And so when you think of this is fucking mind-boggling for me. There's no end to the physical world. Think about this. There is no end to the physical world. It just goes on forever. And in the galaxy we're in now, you look out, there's more galaxies. And then there's more galaxies. And this is yet one of many, many universes. And that's the physical world. In the physical world, you got things changing all the time. Because when you look at the sun, I read an Uber thing that said that the reason the sun is making so much noise, but we can't hear it because it's in a vacuum. See, there's nothing to carry the sound waves. So if we could hear the sun, it would be so deafening we couldn't do, because the suns are like zillions of atomic hydrogen bombs going off at the same time. That's the power, and that's just our little sun. Okay, now this is the physical world. Now, what's the opposite of everything? Nothing.
Whoa.
The spiritual world is so tiny that you could have all the angels on the head of a pin. You know that saying? The spiritual world is really opposite of the physical world.
Oh my God.
And so our souls are the size of a thought, but that thought is eternal.
Whoa.
And we are eternal beings. Now, right now, I'm who I am, you are who you are. Why? It's like a movie. We got cast into the movie, and I'm playing my part, you're playing your part. Now, when the movie's over, like all movies are, then we go back to the spiritual world, which there's no physical. We're like I say, we're a thought that gets put around. But look at our phone. Our phone tells us everything. Our phone, we can take these. What we're talking now, it's smaller than a thought, basically, and it can be stored away, and it can be brought out anytime we want to look at it, to see it. We're living in the future. We are in the future now, and so my theory with the Ukrainian war is that what we're doing is we're destroying the infrastructure of communism, which was in the past. It was a way to have people live together for the good of the country. I mean, it was a lie, because since the revolution, everybody's been trying to go back to finding the czar. See, the communism, it worked. Again, you had the czars, even though it was communism. We're supposed to be sharing everything, communal thing. Yeah, all that worked. Yeah, okay, that worked. But you always had that czar. You always had that dictator, that the czar, and because he's human, he'll go through periods where he's really brilliant, and then periods of insanity, and that's what we're seeing now. But it's not Putin's fault. He's caught up in the karma of the times. In order to have, again, this is another spiritual thing. In order to have anything, you must first start with nothing. And so, in order to build the new Ukraine, it has to be destroyed. And then once it's destroyed, and what happens? The people escape. Is like they get out of there. The ones that can, they get out of there. And by the way, the soldiers that are fighting, the reason they're there, again, it's karma. It's karma, because now they have a chance, because we have a chance in our lifetimes to make that choice. To make a choice. We can believe in God and eternity, or we can be fearful. I don't want to lose my life. I'm afraid to go there. I don't know what's there. You see, that's why the poets and the wise people, they taught us nothing to fear. When Jesus, the reason, and this is another thing too. The Christians fuck everything up because they're so racist. The Christians, they think, oh God, Jesus must have been this tall, handsome, Aryan-looking guy, with nice, long, flowing locks and a beautiful robe. And Jesus was a little short, brown guy that couldn't even really didn't have the sandals, barely had sandals. And the reason he could walk around the neighborhood on they knew he was a healer, but he was a little brown guy. He wasn't a big white guy. He was a little brown guy. And when they hung him up, when they killed him, they wanted to embarrass him. They thought, this little creep, he's trying to take over, trying to be the next czar, or the next, the dictator, Roman ruler, whatever. He's a threat. He's a threat. Because he got all these people. And then when they decided, oh well, everybody wants to be Christian, Okay, well then we'll co-opt that. We'll have a pope, and then we'll have some bishops, and we'll have cardinals, and we'll have the same thing, only instead of worshiping Baal, we'll worship the guy on the cross. And we'll show him being tortured and die, so we'll piss everybody else off. That's not Christian. Now we got a reason to go after the Jews. He was a Jew.
Thank
He never
you.
was. He never was a Christian.
Never.
He never thought of even being a Christian. And everything he taught everything I can do, you can do. There's nothing special about me. It's our Father which art in heaven. It's not my Father which art in heaven. And so when you got this, and then he came back from the dead and everything else, we all come back from the dead. There's nothing new about that.
Can I tell you?
All,
Can I tell you something I love to say when the Christians start? I'm part Jewish, part Christian, part Jew. And when the Christians start bragging around Easter about Jesus coming back 3 days later, I just say, yeah, he came back 72 hours later, probably because of buyer's remorse.
Well, the truth is, Christianity was invented the same way what they co-opted the temples, the Jewish temples. They turned them into money, into a money-making thing. See, the Jewish religion was never meant to be that. Never. The Jewish religion was a verbal, taught down through the ages. I once did a show at the Skirt Ball, and they were honoring me as a comedian. Now, whenever I get that honoring thing, all I smell is someone wanting a free show, and instead of paying me money for getting the people there, they'll give me a plaque, and then I'll do my show. Well, the way I do my show, I don't have one typical show. I got strong bits that I'll go do if I'm getting paid. But if I'm not getting paid, then you're not going to get the goods. You're going to get what comes in my mind at the time. Now, it could be good, it could be. So what happened, I got up there and I started talking about, because we're in Skirball, it's very Jewish. I started talking about how the Jews really created the awareness of the spiritual God. They were the first. And the way they did it was that they realized it was the shepherds that did it. And the shepherds at night, you see, they had to be awake at night to watch. That's when the predators would come. That's when they had to watch over the flock with their dogs and with their staff, to keep the wolves or the coyotes or whatever away from killing the helpless sheep. But while they're sitting there to stay awake, they would ponder, look at the stars. And because there are so many of them, they've got the intelligence to know how to take care of animals and family and feed, to exist in that thing, the world. They were the thinkers. When they saw the galaxies and the comets and the activity going there, they came up with the concept of the one God, you see, and the one spiritual God. And now from there, then the people took it to to create the different sects, the different beliefs and everything else. And then there's one thing where the letter killeth. You know that word? In other words, the Jews, they wrote down so many laws. They had laws that contradict other laws, and then laws and laws and laws. and you're not supposed to do this, and that's with that, and the kosher. No, a lot of the rituals were done to because of health reasons.
Yes.
Like kosher food, you wash your food. You know, and you don't have to do anything special to it. You just wash it, and it could be whatever there because everything God made was good, and anything that God did not make was not made. And the reason you have poisons in certain plants and you have animals, it's to protect the animals, it's to protect the plants. You see? Like there's certain fruits. Like I found out about the coconut, for instance. Did you know that the coconut tree is one of the best insecticides on the planet? That's why coconut oil works so good as all sorts of ailments and stretch marks and stuff like that. It's got it because it kills bacteria. It kills the bad things. And the reason is that you think about a coconut, it's full of nutrients and food, and it would make a perfect home for a zillion insects and everything else. But in order to keep those insects out, in order to keep the coconut viable, it produces its own poison, its own protection. That's why the coconut shell is so hard, in only certain people. But humans, we're given domination over nature thanks to our evolution, and that's why the early religion said that God, we were made in God's image, but people turn around they reverse that. They put God in our image, like that's what they did with Jesus. If you notice, Buddha's a fat Indian prince. He was so fat he couldn't get off the bed. They always got him laying down because he was too fat to move. And what he did, he laid there thinking, oh yeah, right. This real life is the mirage. The real thing is in the spiritual world. And all the religions of the world, they have that. But what they do, they kind of wiggle it around so that they can collect money for telling you. And all the Hebrew Bible tells you about beware of wolves in sheep clothing.
Yes.
Because they're the guys, the so-called preachers and everything else that make a living off people. And the wise people, and you look at a lot of these saints and that, they had horrible deaths. They were tortured and killed for their beliefs, because there were other people that said, oh no, I want that money, or no, I want that land.
Yeah.
There you go. I want that land. Like the Jews in Palestine now fighting over the land. You know what they're fighting over? They're fighting over a fucking desert. You can go anywhere. And that's why Jesus taught, where you stand is holy ground. And the reason is where you stand is holy ground. It's because it's you. You're the temple. You are going around. And wherever you are,
wow,
that's God is, you see?
Wow.
And so, but we are learning this bits and pieces. But there's always, in the chaos comes birth. It's like giving birth. The pain and the blood and the torture and the worry and everything else that comes with giving birth. It has to be that, because you're introducing an entity into the physical world. And so right away, you have to activate all the alarm systems in the body, And so when babies come out, and babies, it kills me the way people will treat babies. Oh God, you got to treat them, because that's our nature, okay? But then as the baby gets older, then pretty soon you go, he's a
That
teenager. He's a teenager. Yeah. And then when you get to the old, it's almost a scrap heap time. People don't even want to look at you when you're old, let alone have you around. They'll. It's so beautiful.
it's so
But
true.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, I'm glad. Thank you for letting me.
Oh my gosh. You enrich my life and you keep my heart pliable and open. Thank you so much for all the
Oh,
times you've come on here and talked.
I love it. I love you. I love the way you let me go. And I save it. By the way, I do save it for these
Oh,
moments. These moments, because I'm learning. The lesson I'm learning is that I notice all the wise men. They got one thing in common. I got it too. It's the twinkle and the laugh, because we know, the wise men. We know what's coming. We know what's expected, and humans are like when you cook anything, a pie, a cake, any cooking, you have to allow time for the chemical change in the food.
wow.
You see, just because you want it doesn't mean to say it's going to be ready when you want it. You have to let everything evolve, and or a plant too. You can't make a plant grow fast by grabbing it and pulling it up. Say, here, let me help you. Here's where you're supposed to be. No, you let time and the chemical reactions evolve, and everything grows at its own space to be able to absorb what's going on, and also to be able to experience what's going on. Because wouldn't life be horrible if we went from baby to being very successful and wealthy and blah blah blah? It's a period in between that we have to embrace and enjoy and love and accept. And when you do that, you can be you can look forward. Like I really do look forward to the war in the Ukraine. I Yeah, I bet my wife. I bet her $400 that there would not be a war. I said, because Putin can't be that stupid.
Wow.
All he wanted to do in the beginning was to raise the oil prices because of the way the smog, the climate change, the electric cars, and the solar. We were getting off the oil, and oil makes incredible revenue when there's war or threat of war. That's when the oil prices rise. So I thought if Putin was smart, he would threaten more, rise the oil prices, and keep the threat. And so the oil prices would be up there, but not really commit a war. But I forgot to factor in the stupidity and the greed of the man and the fear, because he's got to be afraid. That's why he puts his opponents in jail or kills them right away,
Fear.
because he's so afraid, because he knows, he's smart enough to know that his end is coming. It could come at any moment. You never know when someone in the palace is going to slit his throat, and he knows that. And so to him, uh, uh, the Ukraine was a threat, because what's the name of the premier of Ukraine? Zelensky.
Zelensky. Yep.
Zelensky got so popular. He got so popular that, and Putin's, he knows that he's unpopular with his own people. That's why he had that long table. It was a symbol of that he's standing alone, because he doesn't trust any of those people. And his fear and everything else that's doing it, but it's karma. So you can't have, it's just like weapons. When you have a gun in the house, something terrible is going to happen, because that gun just represents death. That's all it represents. And that gun, as Alex Baldwin found out, those weapons have a spirit of their own. See, when the natives would shake the rattles to get rid of the evil spirits, what you're doing is that it's not you're getting rid of anything. What you're doing is you're creating, because you can't get rid of something without creating something to take its place. And so what you want to do, and that's what they do, they use music. That's why music changes the vibe. Music will change the vibe, cleaner, and it's just like incense will clean.
You are
out
so full of so many nuggets of knowledge, Tommy.
Yeah. I'm at that age, and you asked.
Yes.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Once you get rid of those evil spirits, evil spirits are only evil thoughts. That's all they are. That's all they are. And when people have nightmares and that, like my daughter-in-law, she was having evil spirits, which are evil thoughts, live with her. And so she had to go to they're in therapy, and which is really good, because all evil therapy really is taking those thoughts and airing them out. Taking them out. Okay, let's examine this. And then once you do that, once you shine a light, because light means knowledge. When you shine a light on anything, you see it for what it really is. You see, and that's what happens, and that's why Putin shoved everybody away, because he wants to keep that insanity himself. You see, and then everybody that he's sending off to war, they're potentially they're going off on a lie. And the reason they're going off on a lie, you feed them, and you feed any animal, they don't give a shit where the food is, as long as there's food there. And if they have to do certain things to get to the food, they'll do it. But if you make that food available, at any time, then everything changes, and everything has to happen for a reason. Again, cause and effect. See, Putin was put here for a reason. We needed a Putin in order to have a Zelensky. Isn't that something?
Yeah. Beautiful. That is so beautiful.
Okay. Well, I better go. I got another podcast coming up.
Thank you so much, Tommy Chong. Tommy.
How long have we been doing it?
1 hour and a half. Thank you.
Perfect. I did it.
Thank you so much. I love you.
Anytime, dear. I'm here for you.
Thank you.
For you. Okay.
Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. How do I get out of here?